I was 3 states away, repairing power lines in an ice storm, when my phone buzzed. Motion detected at the flip house. I opened the app and saw my wife's hand on another man's belt. My name is Bryce. I'm 34 years old, and I work as a high-voltage journeyman lineman. It's hard, dangerous work. I spend about 6 months of the year on the road chasing storms and rebuilding grids after hurricanes. The money is incredible. 6 figures easy, with overtime, but the cost is absence. I missed birthdays and anniversaries to secure our future. I prided myself on being the provider. If the lights were on in our town, I helped keep them on. I grew up with nothing, so financial security was my love language. I sent every paycheck to the joint account. My wife, Tanya, handled the books. I trusted her completely. I'm a simple guy. Give me a cold beer, a steak on the grill, and a quiet weekend, and I'm happy. I thought we were building an empire together. I thought the sacrifice of sleeping in motel rooms and working in freezing rain was for us. I didn't know I was funding the lifestyle she used to impress someone else. If you've ever worked yourself into the ground for someone who is busy digging your grave, hit that like button. It helps the channel, and it lets others know they're not the only one who learned the hard way that provider sometimes just means bankroll. Subscribe for more stories like this. Tanya was a real estate agent. She wasn't a top producer, but she loved the image. The leased BMW, the blazers, the hustle. We had purchased a small fixer-upper property on the edge of town to flip. I did the heavy lifting, rewiring, drywall, and installing a smart security system before I left for a 3-week storm rotation in Oklahoma. Since the house was vacant and staged for showing, I set the doorbell camera to record always for security. It was a faithful night, 11:30 p.m. I was in a motel room in Tulsa, icing a shoulder injury. My phone pinged. Mosh detected at Flip House. I figured it was a stray dog or maybe teenagers looking for a place to drink. I opened the live feed. It wasn't kids. Tanya's BMW pulled into the driveway. She wasn't alone. A white Ford Raptor pulled in right behind her. I knew the truck. It belonged to Jerry, a local general contractor Tanya used for estimates. He was flashy, loud, and twice divorced. I watched them on the glowing screen of my phone. They walked up to the porch. The camera's night vision was crisp. Tanya wasn't fumbling for keys. She was leaning against the doorframe, running her fingers through Jerry's hair. The audio picked up clearly. "Bryce is stuck in Tulsa until Friday," she said. Her voice was steady, calm. "So we have the place to ourselves?" Jerry asked, moving in close. "All night," she whispered. "The staging furniture is surprisingly comfortable." Then she kissed him. It wasn't a hesitant peck, it was hungry. She unlocked the door and they disappeared inside. I sat in that motel room, 300 miles away, staring at the empty porch on my screen. I didn't call her. I didn't scream. I downloaded the clip. Then I checked the event history. They had been there 4 times in the last 10 days. The drive back from Oklahoma usually takes 5 hours. I made it in 4. I didn't tell Tanya I was coming home early. The silence in the truck gave me time to think, and more importantly, time to dig. Since I handled the labor, she handled the money, I hadn't looked at our main savings account in months. I pulled over at a rest stop and logged into the banking app. Passcode invalid. She had changed the password. I called the bank immediately, verified my identity, and got them to reset it. When I finally logged in, my stomach dropped. The savings account, which should have had $40,000 in it for the flip house renovations, had less than $10,000. I pulled up the credit card statements. While I was eating gas station sandwiches to save per diem, she was living a different life. Dinners at the most expensive steakhouse in town, dates that matched the timestamps on the doorbell camera. A weekend spa trip that coincided with a charge for a hotel 2 towns over, and transfers, literal cash transfers, to Jerry. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was financial. I was paying the contractor who was sleeping with my wife. I arrived at our actual home around 2 p.m. Tanya's car was in the driveway. I walked in, dirty work boots and all. She was in the kitchen, on her laptop, looking like the perfect suburban wife. When she saw me, her face went pale. "Bryce? You're not supposed to be back until Friday." "Storm cleared up," I said, my voice dead flat. "We need to talk about the flip house." She visibly relaxed. She thought I was talking about business. "Oh, good news," she said, putting on her sales smile. "Jerry thinks he can get the kitchen done under budget. We're such a good team." "I know you are," I said. "I saw the footage, Tanya." The color drained from her face again. "What footage?" "The Ring doorbell, at the flip, Tuesday night, and last Thursday, and Sunday." She froze. Then, instead of apologizing, her eyes narrowed. She went into survival mode. She started crying, but it wasn't guilt. It was performance. "Bryce, please," she sobbed, dropping her head into her hands. "You don't understand. I didn't want to. I felt like I had to." This was the pivot, the moment she tried to rewrite reality. Looking back, the signs were neon. For the last year, Tanya had been obsessed with networking. She'd come home late, smelling of expensive wine, claiming she was courting investors. She stopped wearing the simple jewelry I bought her and started wearing flashy, trendy pieces she claimed were knockoffs she bought online. But the biggest red flag was the affection. It hadn't disappeared, it had become transactional. If I asked about the bank account, she'd distract me with intimacy. If I asked why the credit card bill was high, she'd initiate sex. She was using affection as a smoke bomb to blind me to the robbery in progress. I remembered a specific moment 2 weeks prior. I was packing my gear bag for the storm rotation. I told her, "I'm going to make enough on this trip to finally pay off the truck." She had looked at me with a strange mix of pity and annoyance and said, "Money isn't everything, Bryce. Sometimes you need to be present to win." I thought she meant I worked too much. Now I realized she was justifying what she was already doing. She had checked out of the marriage long before Jerry's truck pulled into that driveway. I didn't stay in the house that night. I packed a bag and went to my brother Sam's place. Sam is a diesel mechanic, a no-nonsense guy who had never really liked Tanya. When I showed him the video, he didn't say, "I told you so." He just handed me a beer and the number for a divorce attorney he knew, a shark named Mr. Henderson. "Don't confront her again without recording it," Sam warned me. "She's going to spin this. If she's willing to steal your money, she's willing to steal your reputation." Sam was right. The next morning I received a text from Tanya. It wasn't an apology. It was a threat masked as a plea. "We need to talk. I don't want to ruin your life. But if you leave me, people will find out what really happened." I went to the lawyer immediately. We pulled the deed to the house, the flip property, and the bank records. The financial forensics were brutal. Tanya hadn't just spent the savings. She had taken out a second line of credit on the flip house in my name, forging my signature. "This is fraud, Bryce," the lawyer said. "This isn't just divorce court material. This is criminal." But I needed to hear her explanation. I needed to know what she meant by what really happened. I agreed to meet her at the kitchen table of our home one last time. I placed my phone face down on the table, voice memo recording. She sat across from me, looking haggard but determined. "You saw us walking in," she said, "but you don't know the context." "Tell me," I said. "I did it for us," Tanya said, her voice trembling with practiced emotion. "The flip house, we were underwater, Bryce. You don't look at the book, so you didn't know. We were going to lose everything. Jerry, he offered to cover the renovation costs and buy it above market value, but he wanted perks." She looked me dead in the eye. "I slept with him to save our financial future. It was disgusting. I hated every second of it. He pressured me, Bryce. I felt like I had no choice. It was a sacrifice for this family." I sat there, stunned. She was twisting her infidelity into martyrdom. She was claiming coercion. She was claiming she was a victim of sexual extortion to save me from bankruptcy. For a split second, the sheer audacity of it almost worked. If I hadn't checked the inside camera logs, I might have wavered. But I had audio from inside the house, too. I hadn't told her that part. I pulled out my phone. "So you hated it? You were forced?" "Yes," she cried. "He wouldn't sign the contract unless I did." I pressed play on the audio file from the interior security hub. Her voice filled the kitchen, clear and laughing. "Audio. God, Jerry, stop. Okay, don't stop. You know, Bryce is so boring in bed. He always smells like ozone and sweat. This feels expensive." Jerry's voice. "Does he suspect anything?" Tanya's voice. "He's a glorified electrician. He just signs the checks I put in front of him. As long as I let him play hero, we can do whatever we want." The color didn't just drain from her face. She looked like a corpse. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. "That doesn't sound like sacrifice, Tanya," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "That sounds like you mocking the man who paid for the bed you were rolling around in." She tried to speak, tried to stutter a defense, but the gaslighting had hit a brick wall. "You weren't saving us," I said, standing up. "You were spending me, and now you're done." The divorce was a war, but I had the ammunition. My lawyer used the financial records to prove she had embezzled marital funds. Because she had forged my signature on the line of credit, she faced real legal exposure. To avoid criminal charges for fraud, she agreed to a settlement that gave me the house and 100% of the remaining equity in the flip property. Jerry didn't get off scot-free either. It turns out, Sleeping with your client and accepting personal Venmo transfers for professional work violates a lot of ethics clauses. I reported him to the state licensing board with the video evidence and the bank transfers. He lost his contractor's license for 6 months and got audited by the IRS. Tanya moved back in with her mother. Last I heard, she's working reception at a dentist's office. The luxury car was repossessed. Gentlemen, trust is good, but verification is essential. If you are the sole provider and your partner handles the money in the dark, turn the lights on. Today, check the accounts, check the statements, and if you have a gut feeling, don't ignore it. If a doorbell camera can save you from a lifetime of debt and lies, it's worth every penny. That's my story. It's taken me 2 years to rebuild my credit and my trust in people, but I'm finally debt-free and living on my own terms. Thanks for listening. If you found value in this, smash that like button and subscribe. I'll be back with more stories from men who walked through the fire and came out the other side. Stay safe out there.